Ken San.
On behalf of my people, I extend warm and affectionate welcome to each and every one.
President Ferdinand Marcos of the Republic of the Philippines proposed and presided over the Manila Summit Conference.
I greet President Park Chung-hee of the Republic of Korea. I greet Prime Minister Thanom Kittikachorn of Thailand. I greet Chairman Nguyen Van Thieu of the Republic of Vietnam. I greet Prime Minister Nguyen Cao Ky of the Republic of Vietnam. I greet Prime Minister Harold Holt of Australia. I greet Prime Minister Keith Holyoke of New Zealand. And I greet President Lyndon B. Johnson of the United States of America. There is a fresh new wind that sweeps over the face of Asia, and Asia can no longer accept Western formulas without questioning nor participation.
At the Malacañang Palace, the leaders went into 2 days of private working meetings.
To each and every one of you again I say, greetings, mabuhay, and thank you.
After the doors were closed, a watching world was kept informed through special releases and briefings at the International Press Center. Over 2,000 newsmen from more than 70 nations were covering the conference. While their husbands met together, the First Ladies went on excursions arranged by their hostess, Mrs. Marcos.
One tablecloth. Tablecloth? Yes, 5 miles. Oh, all the fruit. 5 She was asking if it's not
Order, please. The chair now calls upon the different heads of government to sign the 3 documents that have been approved by the conference.
The leaders agreed upon a declaration of 4 principles for peace. First, aggression must fail. Second, the bonds of hunger, illiteracy, and disease must be broken. Third, regional cooperation must be increased. Finally, former enemies must learn to live together in peace.
Gentlemen of this conference, it is now my privilege and pleasure to make the final statement of the conference. First of all, I wish to extend my thanks and gratitude.
The leaders also issued a joint communique on Vietnam. They pledged that Allied forces would be withdrawn within 6 months, provided that, quote, the other side withdraws its forces to the north, ceases infiltration, and the level of violence then subsides, close quote. Beyond that, the leaders also pledged not to invade North Vietnam, to grant amnesty to South Vietnamese who had been misled or coerced into the Viet Cong, to give top priority to land reform and social welfare in South Vietnam, and to hold elections within 6 months after completion of the new constitution.
Proclaim this declaration of principles on which we base our hopes for future.
It is my pleasure and honor now to declare closed
Maybe it should have been work with the CIA. Now, if they told me that I said I work with the CIA, I will admit that. I work with this agency in 3 instances. Under instructions of my own president, as you very well know, I served 3 presidents of this republic. President Macapagal, President Garcia, and Magsaysay.
Kasi ito po ay binanggit at sinulat mismo ng Secretary of State ng Amerika, si George Shultz. Meron siyang libro, ang pangalan ng kanyang libro, Triumph and Turmoil.
Yes.
Nagyabang siya doon sa libro na yon na sila, ang Washington, ang nag-ayos sa pag-alis
Ni
kay President
President
Marcos.
Marcos. Oo.
Merong isang linya doon na memoryado ko na sinabi ni George Shultz, to remove Marcos, it's not a matter of how, but when. Ibig sabihin, na-set up na nila kung paano aalisin si President Marcos. Yung mismong Secretary of State ng Amerika ang nagsabi, sila ang nagtanggal kay Marcos.
At saka andun yung pinahirapan talaga nila sa Presidente Marcos, yung pinutol nila yung export quotas natin ng mga ating
sugar,
mga sugar, textile, lahat yung pinahirapan siya, pati yung mga loans natin sa World Bank, ano yun, lahat yung pinutol
148 banks.
para lang mahirapan si Presidente
Tumigil
Marcos.
sila ng
Oo.
credit. Pero anong ginawa ni Marcos? Nagpasok siya ng pera. Yan sa testimony ni Jaime Laya sa New York. It is court records, public records yan, na sinabi niya noong 1983, 148 banks ng World Bank and IMF withheld credit. Hindi sila nagbigay ng 1 sentimo sa atin. Ang sabi ni Jaime Laya sa testimony niya, sinabi niya kay President Marcos, wala na tayong pera kasi ang World Bank tumigil. Anong sabi ni Marcos? Tumawag siya, certain banks in Switzerland. In a matter of days, may pumasok na $700 million dito sa ating kaban. Saan ang galing ito? Diyan sa mga bangkong binabanggit nila. The Swiss banks. Tinanong si Jaime Laya, do you know who owns those accounts? No, sabi niya. I only know that when President Marcos called, the accounts from these banks came into the central bank. Tingnan ninyo ngayon ang record ng central bank. Andyan pa yan. Meron pang naiwan. Meron pang natirang $35 million galing sa mga bangko na yan. Hanggang ngayon, pati ang PCGG hindi alam kung anong gagawin dyan sa mga pera na yan. Bakit? Kasi yung nag-utos niya, namatay na eh. Namatay na si President Marcos. Kaya tama yung sinasabi.
Pinalabas nila yan ng mga ill-gotten wealth yung para masiraan nila ng masiraan si
Hindi yan
Presidente
ill-gotten.
Marcos.
Kaya nga na-acquit si Imelda sa New York. Mahabang storya yan. Pero yung sinasabi mo nga, lahat dito kagagawan ng Amerikano. Na kung sino man ang gusto nilang ilagay, kaya nila. Pinasukan nilang Iraq. Pinasukan nila ang Libya. Pinasukan ng Afghanistan. Ang Syria. Ang Yemen. Lahat yan. Kaya delikado. Babalik namin yung pera na yan sa Pilipinas, kayo na ang mag-sequester. At kailangan na litisin ninyo kung ano ang kulay ng pera na yan. Sino ba ang may-ari niyan? At kayo na rin ang magsasabi kung yung pera na yan ay ninakaw. Pero huwag na kayong balik ng balik pa dito sa Switzerland para tanungin yung pera na yan. And they did that. They made a judgment. Yan ang nakasulat dun sa judgment ng Federal Court ng Switzerland. Anong ginawang interpretasyon dito sa atin? Binaliktad yung German language na yon at sinabi, kasi daw yung pera na yon ay kay Marcos at yun daw ninakaw sa taong bayan kaya binabalik sa Pilipinas. Can you imagine that? Ang pagbabaliktad na ginawa nila, bida kasi may. Hindi rin mapasok sa Pilipinas. Bakit? Sa laki ng halaga, walang bangko dito sa atin ang pwedeng tumanggap ng ganong kalaking halaga. We do not have this AAA na tawag na bangko kung ano man yan sa banking system. Kaya saan nagdideposito? Sa Singapore. Kasi yun, ang Singapore is the central financial district dito sa Southeast Asia. Meron silang malalaking bangko. Doon muna nilagay. Okay. Pagkatapos ng panahon, unti-unti, binalik na rin dito sa Pilipinas. Kasi unti-unti. In other words, our banks here can be able to absorb that already. May isang account lang na hindi nila magalaw sapagkat yung foundation na yon na kung saan ang may-ari ng account na yon, wala sa pangalan, wala doon sa judgment ng Switzerland. Kaya hanggang ngayon, question mark pa. Paano napunta doon? Kaya ang Singapore, wise din. Hanggat hindi nyo napapakita yung judgment ng Switzerland at sinasabi na yung foundation na yan ay kay Marcos, hindi namin bibitawan to. Pero, napasok magkano? $768 million ang pumasok dito.
Sa aking pananaw po, 3 pong dahilan kung bakit ako ay sinampahan ditong impeachment complaint na ito. Ang una po, ang matinding galit ng hasyenderong Pangulo sa pagkakatalo niya tungkol sa Hacienda Luisita. Ano po ba ang karapatan ng Pangulong Aquino na ikagalit sa pamamahagi ng Hacienda Luisita sa magsasaka? Ang lupaing ito ay pinahiram lamang sa kanila. Inagaw lamang itong lupang ito sa mga ninuno ng mga kasalukuyang magsasaka. Halos 60 taon na pinakinabangan at pinagkakitaan nila ang Hacienda Luisita. At pagkatapos ngayon, ayaw na nilang isoli.
Mr. President.
Halos 60 taon na pinakinabangan at pinagkakitaan ng Hacienda Luisita. At pagkatapos ngayon, ay gusto pa silang bayaran ng bilyong-bilyong piso na kapalit. Pangalawang dahilan, ang kagustuhan ng Pangulong Aquino na kontrolin ang 3 sangay ng gobyerno at sirain pagkapantay-pantay ng executive, ng legislative at ng judiciary. Paggamit ng lakas at kapangyarihan para makuha lamang itong adhikaing layuning ito. Pangatlong dahilan, ang unti-unting pagmamaniobra at pagsakop ng kaliwa sa pamamahala ng gobyerno at ang kanilang napipintong takeover ng ating bansa. Tila kaya ay hawak na hawak ni Ronald Llamas at ang kanyang mga kakosa sa leeg ang Pangulong Aquino.
In different platforms on the media, not least Rappler itself. After all, your website hasn't been shut down. It continues to this day. It has millions of eyeballs on it every single month. The Philippines is not North Korea, nothing like.
Well, who would want to be North Korea, right? In the end, the Philippines is also living under a climate of fear and violence. In fact, when I last interviewed President Duterte, when he was already president, I was one of 4 journalists he gave an interview to in December of 2016. I asked him that specifically. I said, you know, Mr. President, now that you're in charge of actually protecting the Constitution, is it necessary to use violence? And he said, yes. He said it's necessary to use violence and fear. So while you see what looks like a multitude of voices, imagine that those voices also have a Damocles sword hanging over their heads. During our pandemic, people were, based on their posts on social media, people were arrested. I think there's a good veneer of legality for all of these, but we've certainly felt the walls closing in. In order to be able to continue publishing as Rappler, look what I've had to go through. I'm not a criminal, I'm just a journalist.
And obviously, my show is called Hard Talk, so I have to take seriously the charges against you, because as you've indicated that the libel is the least of it. You still face allegations of, my goodness, what a list, fraud, tax evasion, receiving money from the CIA. I mean, you could be in court for years and years to come.
The only thing I can say is that these charges, the 8 criminal charges I'm facing, fall into 3 buckets. The first is cyber libel. The second is securities fraud.
Laging presidente si Marcos, sabi ko, Ferdinand, now that you're president, what's my role? Now that I'm president, sabi niya, I'll build a strong house for the Filipino people. You make it a home. Then I reflected, what makes a home? love. What is love made real? The good, true, and beautiful. What's the good, true, and beautiful? Culture. Kaya ang first project ko, the Cultural Center. First year or second year pa lang ako first lady, dumating si Rockefeller, taga New York. Siya ang kasama nagtayo ng kanilang Metropolitan Opera House. Yung pagpunta niya dito, gusto niya i-tour siya dito, tingnan ng Pilipinas. Lumibot ako ng lubis, wala tayong ospital, wala tayong hotel, walang magandang pakita ko. Nung nandoon ako sa harap ng Cultural Center ngayon, sabi ko sa kanya, you know, Mr. Rockefeller, there will rise the Cultural Center of the Philippines. Sabi niya, saan? Diyan. But that is water. Oh, Mr. Rockefeller, the first year are covered that with soil. The second year are dried the piles. The third year, the building will rise. The fourth year, the curtain will rise. Sabi niya, Madam Marcos, it took the Rockefellers at least 10 years to build the Lincoln Center. If you can only build that in the next 4 years that your husband is president, I'll take off my hat to you. So ang ginawa ko, halaganap ako na sino makaka-reclaim. Tubig yan nung araw. At tayo ang nag-umpisa niyang reclamation niyang bagong syudad dyan. Nag-reclaim ako para sa folk art centers, para sa Miss Universe. Nag-proclaim ako ng 20 hectares para sa Convention Center, sa Coconut Palace. Lahat yan. Tayo nag-umpisa niyang new city na yan. Pwede palang gawing lupa yung tubig. Pagtayo ng Cultural Center, hindi pa tapos ang first term ni Marcos. Ini-invite ko na si President Reagan to inaugurate the Cultural Center. Biniimbita ko si Rockefeller. Sabi niya, masyado akong impressed. Sabi niya, I'm speechless. Mahihiya akong pumunta doon na tinanong ko pa ikaw at hindi ako maniwala na gagawa mo ito. Nagawa ko na within the 4 years that Marcos was president. Nung pumunta ako for the first time sa China at si Chairman Mao, hindi lamang kumamay sa akin, hinalikan pa ang kamay ko. Nagulat ako. Sabi ko, why did you do that, Chairman? Sabi niya, because I admired you for so long. Because when you became First Lady, the first project you had was culture. You were attacked and you were subjected to many negative things. But you continued to finish the Cultural Center. You know, Mrs. Marcos, China, sabi niya ganyan, was united not by the gun. Doon kami nagkaisa sa Cultural Revolution. Kaya tama yung iyong layunin para sa bayan. Kaya tuwan-tuwa nga ako. Mula noon, lalo naman lumakas ang loob ko. Nung ako inuutusan ni Sir at nangunguna pumunta ako sa iba't ibang bayan, ang ginamit ko talaga culture. Kaya ang mga dala ko, mga sumasayaw, kumakanta, yung mga magagandang mga suot, lahat. Sa dami-dami kong pinuntahan sa buong mundo, at the height of the Cold War, lahat successful. Bakit? Ang aking dala, yung magandang kultura natin, at kinatutuwaan ng lahat. Kaya, miski malamig, nalalamig na ako. Nakasterno pa ako. Pinakikita ko kung gaano kaganda ang terno.
Sana all ligtas. Sana all may sariling tahanan. Sana all makapagtapos ng pag-aaral. Sana all. Sana all. Sana all.